It seems crazy to be here now saying this, but here we are at the end of another year. In fact, the end of a decade. In just a few short days, it will be 2020. And as I have unfortunately not found enough time to do another video for this week, this will serve as the last video for 2019. So let's see, what was the first video of this year? And okay, yeah, I guess that's pretty appropriate. The first video uploaded this year was the 91 Firebird, the absolutely clear, obvious fan favorite of this channel. And since it was about the middle of January when the first episode of this car series was posted, it has been a year, and what a year it's been. We have been through a lot on this channel, and this year has by far been the largest subscriber growth that we have ever seen. And while that's not totally exclusively due to this car, it has certainly been the MVP. Previously, that title would have gone to the S10 Blazer. But once we started putting out those 91 Firebird videos, they just took off in such a crazy way that I really could not have expected. And those videos kind of ended up taking over a lot of the content for this year, even though the vast majority of the content in those videos was actually filmed in 2018. Really, just now over the last few episodes, we've finally gotten into this year, and well, now the year is going to be rolling over again, and all the other content is going to be from 2019, and I'm sure we'll be well into 2020 before some of that's uploaded. And this is something we've talked about before in other update videos and in a lot of the car videos themselves, maybe passive-aggressively, but it seems like it's probably worth addressing again because of the frequency of comments that say something along the lines of, "How come you only upload once a month?" Well, actually, for the past some period of time, we've been sticking to a video every other week schedule. Seriously, it's been quite a while. And it isn't always a huge video. Sometimes it's a smaller project video or one of these updates. These are still technically videos on the channel, so sometimes I'm counting them that way. Sometimes it has to be done. Like this week, there was no way I would have enough time to upload a full-length project car episode video. And I don't really want to get too much into the weeds on this, but we can talk about that schedule a little bit. At least to say that the way things have been working for the past couple months is that, well, okay, ideally, I would have a week to work on cars, do whatever has to be done, and then a week to get a video edited, and that seems fairly reasonable. Realistically, if nothing else came up, that would be a pretty, honestly, probably a lofty schedule. Most videos take 3 or 4 days, kind of somewhere in that range to edit, and those aren't, 12-hour work days, because I've done those before one way or another. I've done those before editing videos, and it's rough and it's not sustainable. There have been series edited that way, like the transmission rebuild series for the Silverado. That was a tough one, but we got through it, and here we are, and we've learned some lessons from that. So we've managed to stick to that video every other week schedule, and it hasn't been quite as bad. There has certainly been time in between, and some of these videos take a long time to edit. Some of them I can do in a day or two, but the problem is, well, it's kind of life, really. There's always a lot going on, and sometimes with reasonable hour days, it can end up taking longer than a week to film content for even just one video. And this maybe sounds a little flat, a little dour. This is not us giving up on that video every 2-week schedule. I think we can keep that going, even if every once in a while we have to fill in with a mini projects video or an update or something like that. I do think it's possible, and certainly right now we have a big backlog of video already recorded, some of it from last year that we actually talked about in the last one or maybe even 2 update videos, and a lot of plans for the upcoming year. Maybe more plans than ever before? I don't know. At least it's a lot. And with whatever it is I was just rambling about out of the way, let's talk about some of those plans and some of the things that have happened recently that, because the videos are so backlogged, you guys just haven't seen. So we'll start doing some quick car updates. 91 Firebird, still doing great. It actually ended up sitting for, I don't even know how long, probably like 6 months or something. And just in the last week or two, I've started driving it again, put a few 100 miles on it. This thing still works great. It's a brilliant car to drive. And I don't know, man, it looks good. The front bumper, I still don't love the front bumper on this year. Some of the earlier ones look better, I think, but it's kind of grown on me, this profile here. It's kind of grown on me. And one day we'll get a license plate bracket. Don't worry about that. And this thing right here, you can probably recognize as one of the seats from it. Yeah, we had to take a seat out. Something's up with the seat rails on this thing. I haven't even had time to look at it. Well, I haven't made time to look at it. I ended up just taking out the seat and putting in one from a 4th gen. And I don't want to talk too many details about this because this will be in a video in the future, but this is, you know, you can fill in some time. Some of this might be interesting to somebody. So a seat from a 4th gen Camaro does in fact bolt right into the 3rd gen Firebird. And it's a pretty good fit. That was one of the reasons it sat for so long. Another one was, well, there's just a couple maintenance things that I really should take care of, and I haven't taken care of those yet. Like the transmission fluid, I still haven't changed that. It still looks good, it smells good, everything seems pretty solid with that, but no, I haven't really done that yet. And on a similar note, the 78 Firebird, also doing really well. This thing runs pretty well, amazingly well for not having a tune really at all on the carburetor, and just drives great. I haven't really done too much. There's a couple videos, and I'll probably put some clips in here. There's a couple things we've done with it, trying to fix some small things here or there, but it was never not working anywhere through that process. Transmission fluid's getting pretty dark. I don't think it's super happy about the supercharger, but it's been working fine, so that's an issue in the future. But I don't think it's going to matter because we're going to replace that anyway. And let's talk about the plans we have for the upcoming year that I'm pretty excited about. If you're on our Instagram, you will have seen this engine that we bought off of Craigslist. This is a Gen 5 454, and we bought it as a complete set. Well, okay, well, I thought it was a complete set. It's definitely missing some pieces, but we'll make it work. The cylinder bores were pretty bad, and that was one of my big concerns, is that it sure looked like it had some water sitting in it because there was rust down the cylinder head intake ports, and what do you know, the cylinders were pretty rusty. And flashback to the Blazer, honed the crap out of the thing, and they don't look great. So this is going to be a little bit of a science experiment to see how well it works, but I don't want the Gen 5 block badly enough to take it to a shop and get oversized pistons and this and that, and you can't feel any of the marks with your fingernail. So we're just gonna kind of sort of budget build this thing. Well, okay, I guess it's pretty budget. I'm gonna throw that thing together, put it in the 78 Firebird, and well, I don't know. It'll be interesting at least. But that's not enough. I always wanted a big block for the thing. That's why we got a 454. They're common, they're easy, and cheap. But dang, it's just not enough. I really like the supercharger. I love the way it drives with the supercharger. As much as I've always wanted a big block, I kind of wanted the supercharger more. So if we can't ditch that supercharger, but the one on there right now is too small to use with the big block, and nobody makes an intake manifold to do that anyway. So what do? Well, we get on eBay and blow even more money buying another one. This is a B&M 250. This eBay auction was pretty reasonably priced, and then I later learned why. It's because it was missing pieces and it needs a lot of work. So this is going to be at least as much of a project as the engine rebuild itself, but it's something I always wanted, and I guess it's more content for the channel, I don't know. And as far as a transmission, I actually don't have one yet, but the plan is just to find a Turbo 400 off of Craigslist or something and just make it work, because I don't think that 350 is going to survive even the very modest amount of horsepower and torque we're going to end up with here. We did, however, get a positive traction carrier for it, and we'll be putting that in somewhere down the line. And how about the venerable S10 Blazer? Well, we've also got a lot of plans for this thing, some of which haven't changed since the last update video. We have a bigger radiator for it. We got a limited slip for the back. We finally actually have all the parts to fix this damage that happened when somebody hit something with it. I don't know what happened there. And we're going to make at least a new front bumper for it. So that should be a pretty cool fabrication project. Also, this thing is still a death trap. It drives fine and it runs fine. It's okay, but the steering is terrible. It needs a lot of little things that I think will make it drive a lot better. I hope will make it drive a lot better. But what some of you may be wondering is, well, we have a new engine for the 78 Firebird, but the one in there works great, and that supercharger is great. So what are we going to do with it? That's the plan, at least. And we've got the I don't think it's anybody's favorite of our project cars, but the ever-present Silverado. We still haven't shown any of the videos from doing the lift kit on this thing, although I will say after driving with it for a couple months, it drives just like it did before, and it's very pleasant. It was a suspension and body lift kit. We only have the suspension lift on it right now, but the tires do still actually rub at full lock, especially when reversing. So we will be putting the body lift on there at some point. It's only a 1-inch lift. I don't think it'll mess anything up too bad, and hopefully it'll still fit okay in parking garages. I think it'll still be shorter than some of the stock heavy-duty trucks I've seen, so I don't know, maybe we'll be okay. But even though you haven't seen this thing for quite a while, just know that it is doing well. It is still the normal daily driver. Done a few things other than just the lift kit that you will be seeing in videos, had some adventures certainly with it, and it will continue to be a mainstay of this channel, even if it's usually kind of in the background. And speaking of stuff in the background, we've got this 1987 Pontiac Fiero. Really teased this in a video a little while back, and it doesn't have a series yet. Really, that's because well, I really haven't had time to do anything with it. It needs a fairly significant amount of work, and the time, unfortunately, just hasn't been there. I don't know what the schedule is for this thing, but we need to rebuild the transmission. It's toast. It can move under its own power, but it's not real happy about it. So I am sorry for teasing it in that last update video and still not having any content on it, but it will definitely show up in the future. I guess I'll throw this question out to you guys. Would you rather see an episode in the near future and then have to wait probably quite a while to see more episodes about the car? Or would you rather I just sit on the footage and upload other videos until there's enough for at least a few episodes focusing on this car? And that question extends to this thing, another vehicle we've shown in previous update videos that doesn't have its own series yet. I'm sure it came up in the last update video, but just to reiterate, this Volvo 240 is not mine. This belongs to a friend of mine, Sean, who also owns the Datsun 280Z that really kicked off the whole car video side of this channel. There's actually probably several videos worth of content on this thing already, and it needs a heck of a lot more work before it's ready to hit the road. I don't actually remember if this came up in the last update video or not, but let's talk a little bit about what we're actually doing with this car. And the first thing that the keen-eyed among you might note is that that's not the original engine. Yes, this Volvo is becoming one of the many cars out there on the internet that is getting an LS swap. Everybody always talks about how easy it is, how cheap it is, and it just makes a lot of power really effortlessly. Well, easy hasn't necessarily been our experience with this whole thing, and we'll see that here and there in the videos. It has certainly become more expensive and certainly taken a lot longer than anyone has anticipated. This car has actually been here over a year now, I think, sitting in my driveway, and that was not the plan going into it, but here we are. And make no mistake, the engine is sitting in there, it is bolted in there, but that's really it. The transmission is still sitting on wood blocks, and there is a lot left to do. And, well, that covers pretty much everything. That's at least the vast majority of things, but there are a couple other things we can show right now. Just recently, within the last month, we got this blasting cabinet off of eBay. And of course I couldn't help myself. I put it together and then immediately started modifying it. Got it rolling on wheels with a weird little 2x4 thing there. And this will probably be a mini projects video at some point because there is probably enough there worth talking about, but I can't wait to actually use this thing. It's a decent sized interior, and all things considered, it was actually pretty cheap. In some places it feels a little cheap, but mostly overall it seems pretty okay. We're gonna need a bigger air compressor and some other things here and there to run that effectively, but I've sandblasted some parts before just sitting out in the yard, so we can at least test it out with what we've got going right now. And I'm very hopeful this will make a big difference with something that a lot of people bring up in videos here and there, and that's we put a lot of rusty, crusty parts back onto the car. Most of the time there's not enough time or energy involved to clean up everything super well. And I'm not saying this is going to change anything. There's definitely going to be some questionable work here and there, I think. But it's at least one more tool in the arsenal of cleaning things up. And another big tool is organization. Not that that's necessarily what this is exactly, or at least a good example of it. I mean, you can see the garage floor, which is better than this has been for at least a year. There's still a lot more to do. That's what I've been spending a lot of time recently doing, because it got to the point where I couldn't really work on things because everything was such a freaking mess in here. And I don't know exactly what this means, but between the blasting cabinet, the supercharger stuff, this engine, and some of the parts for it, I still need more. But there has been a lot of money spent, well, relative to this channel, I guess, there has been a lot of money spent on cars over the last month or so. There are piles of parts. Some of these bins are filled with them, and there's piles of them in the house and everywhere that we need to find time to get around to. And this update video is unfortunately all we're going to have for you until at least partway through January. But make no mistake, there is a lot of work happening, and we certainly plan to stick to the video every other week schedule. But I'm sure that with all the work going on, there will be times when we have to fill in with smaller videos. Not everything can be a blockbuster or a 91 Firebird episode. Not everything can be just about this car. We want to try to keep things interesting, I suppose, or varied at least, and cover all of the projects, because that's how our time is actually divided anyway. We also have some new camera equipment. We've got a few more tripods. We're still definitely using the camera arm. This thing is just really good at getting shots that nothing else can get, or that would be too impractical to get with anything else. And we actually went out and bought 2 more cameras, including the one that's filming this right now, a Panasonic G85. They're not the newest or the highest end, but they do pretty decent quality 4K video, and having multiple cameras really makes it easier to just set one up, leave it running, and use another one to film things here and there. Well, it means a lot more hard drive space taken up and at least a little bit more editing time, but I think it'll make a big difference in the shots we're able to get, the speed with which we can fly through filming something, and maybe even some of the detail that we're seeing along the way. And this video is probably way too long already. I'm looking at a 50-minute timer on the camera at the moment. So let's wrap up everything we've been talking about, as well as 2019. This has been a huge, amazing year. The support from viewers, new and old, has changed my life. The traffic brought in by the 91 Firebird, as well as just gradual increases of traffic on the channel, all of this stuff, all of the things in the video, a lot of the things that we're doing that are, we're probably spending way too much money trying to do, would not be possible without the support of everyone out there. Whether you're a Patreon supporter, which major thanks to all you out there, or if you're on YouTube with YouTube Red and watching our videos, or if you're watching ads on YouTube, or hell, even if you're just giving us views or watch time or whatever the useful numbers on YouTube are, you're making a difference. You're making a difference in my life, and I don't know how important that is, but you're letting all of us together do some really cool stuff for the channel and for our fleet of largely kind of forgotten about cars. Some of which we went out looking to find, some of which found us. So, of course, as always, thank you all for all of your support. And as long as you keep watching these videos, keep doing what you're doing, hopefully we can keep doing this for the foreseeable future. So as we stumble into 2019, nope, that's the wrong year. So as we stumble into 2020, I hope you've seen at least a little glimmer of hope or something that excites you for what's coming in the future.